Welcome to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, is my fellow co-host, someone who does not have a secret lair, Jason Johnson.
Not yet, but when I get done digging out the basement, well, I'm in Florida, so I guess I'll have a nice indoor pool.
Yeah, or maybe a sinkhole.
Yeah, don't joke.
Nope, I've seen plenty of Florida sinkholes. Yeah.
One of the data centers I used to work at may or may not have been located strategically above one. We'll just throw that out there. So, yeah.
Nice insurance write-off, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Makes for fun disaster recovery exercises.
Where's the data center? In that giant hole right there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so on tonight's fine podcast, we will be continuing our journey through the current season of Daredevil: Born Again on Disney Plus. This time we'll be doing the middle third of season 1, which will be episodes 4 through 6. And as mentioned in our last podcast, our trip through Farscape will be on hold for a little bit here, so we can get through Daredevil, and or maybe, I don't know, we'll figure it out as we go here. But there's lots of new stuff coming out all at once here, and then suddenly nothing. So at some point,
Yeah.
probably soon, we'll get back to Farscape.
Yeah. Disney Plus taking the Big Bang effect to our strategy for this year. So we'll see how that works for them.
Yep. And as always, our little public service announcement. If you like what we do here, please give us a like or a review or help spread the word. We would appreciate it. Thanks very much. All right, so I guess we'll do our little recaps here, and then we'll get into some conversation topics. So I guess I'll go first this time. You went first last time.
All right.
All right, Daredevil: Born Again, season 1 or season 4, if you want. Wait. Listen to the last podcast. We argue that point. Episode 4. Sic Semper Systema. Matt is confronted by Hector's niece, Angela Del Toro, who believes the police are responsible for Hector's death. Probably. Matt comforts her with hope that the killer will be brought to justice. At marriage counseling, Fisk and Vanessa discuss her affair with Adam, and Heather privately asks Vanessa if she feels safe around Fisk. She does. Fisk's plan to rebuild the city's ports faces several hurdles, including bureaucratic procedures, gang infighting, and his protege Daniel Blake drunkenly shooting his mouth off and to BB the reporter, who reports that Fisk is a union buster. Not a good thing in New York City. Despite his anger, Fisk decides not to fire Blake when he expresses his deep loyalty. Meanwhile, Matt investigates the site of Hector's murder and finds a bullet casing with the Punisher symbol on it. He tracks down Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, and suggests that he should take responsibility for those who are misusing the Punisher symbol. Frank, on the other hand, calls Matt out for not killing Dex as retribution for Foggy's death.
Yeah. Despite a attempt, but
Yeah,
anyway.
he tried. He tried his best. Later that night, Matt practices with his Daredevil billy clubs on the roof of his apartment. Fisk eats dinner next to an imprisoned Adam, and the masked serial killer Muse drains blood from a victim.
Which drops us into episode 5 with interest. On St. Patrick's Day, Matt goes to New York Mutual Bank to discuss a loan for his law firm. His application is denied by assistant bank manager Yusef Khan. Familiar? Due to Matt's firm's history of taking on clients who cannot afford to pay. After Matt leaves, a group of criminals led by Devlin enters the bank and tries to take everyone hostage. They work for Luca and are attempting to steal the $1.8 million he needs to pay Victor. Matt hears them and returns to the bank. When the police arrive, Devlin talks with hostage negotiator Detective Angie Kim. Matt takes out 2 of the robbers while Khan stalls for time at the bank vault. Matt opens the vault and they find a rare diamond which the robbers are targeting. Matt pretends to give the diamond to Devlin as the police enter the bank. Devlin gives the parcel to an accomplice among the hostages, who later realizes that she does not have the diamond. Devlin disguises himself as a police officer and leaves, but is caught and injured by Matt. Later, Matt secretly returns the diamond and accepts an offer to have dinner with Khan's family.
Yeah, I wonder who his daughter is. We'll talk about that in a
minute.
Which leads into episode 6, Excessive Force. After the failed robbery from previous episode, Luca visits Fisk and refuses to pay the $1.8 million to Victor. Fisk raises the amount to $2.8 million and gives Luca a week to pay it. He then learns from the city's sanitation department that Muse is using human blood in his street art. Ew. Muse later leaves the bodies of 2 victims next to a new mural as public confirmation of his actions. Fisk learns of this during a fundraiser with the city's elites, including socialite Jack Duquesne, who are against his port rebuild plans. To deal with Muse, Fisk establishes an Anti-Vigilante Task Force with additional pirates and recruits notorious police officers such as Powell and former detective Cole North. Meanwhile, Angela believes that Hector was investigating Muse before his death and asks Matt to continue his work. When Matt refuses, she goes by herself anyway and gets abducted by Muse. Alerted to her disappearance, Matt finally decides to suit up as Daredevil. Yay! 5 episodes.
Yes, episode 6 or 5. Yeah.
After 5 episodes later, he finds Muse's lair and rescues Angela, but Muse gets away, of course. Meanwhile, Fisk gives Adam an axe and challenges him to a fight in which Fisk beats the crap out of him and drags him back to his cell.
So he asked him a couple questions.
Let me ask you a question. All right, so we're 2/3 of the way through season 1, or season 4. Again, see last podcast. So, what do you think about it so far? I mean, at least now, finally, we've got Matt back in costume after 5 episodes, so at least Daredevil is living up to its name of Daredevil again.
Yeah. I'm definitely still enjoying it. We'll dive into the details, but I personally I thought the bank heist was great. I enjoyed the MCU callbacks, and I'm sure I'm missing some of the Easter eggs since I never watched Ms. Marvel. We'll dive into that too, but yeah, overall it's fun. I'm seeing a lot of similarities to season 1 of the previous version. I guess if we're calling this season 4, we're calling it season 1 Born Again, whatever. We took so long to get a suit, right? We dealt with at least that at that point we had Matt working with the impromptu costume, right? The black with the hat pulled down over his eyes type approach. But yeah, we've gone a long time with no superhero action, so this has been an interesting approach.
Yeah, and for what we said last time, the original idea was, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be putting on the costume for, yeah, episodes into this thing, which I guess they still did, but at least they threw us a bone in the first episode and had that little 10-minute scene, with him in costume. But yeah, I mean, kind of, in a show named Daredevil, you would like to see the costume. I know it took us a while in the first season to get to the real costume, but at least he had something he was wearing and doing something. This time he's not doing
Yeah.
anything except the first episode stuff kind of out of costume, so to speak, which we'll get into here and what we've done the last couple episodes. But yeah, it's nice to actually become official. Like, he's back, maybe.
Which is an interesting point, right? Because not to sound complainy, because again, I will stress I am enjoying the show, but if you're coming into this as your first Daredevil, right? Like you're Disney Plus only, you didn't do the Netflix stuff. You're really far into this with no Daredevil. So, I mean, that's an interesting. I don't know. I question the approach, right? I mean, yeah, we've had some superhero stuff in the past. If you're dealing with look at the original Marvel movies and how far into them was it before we got an Iron Man or before we got a Captain America powered up, right? We had just Steve Rogers in the beginning, but we knew it was coming. We had a whole hour and a half to deal with it. We're down to a third of the season left, so it's an interesting call.
Yeah, I mean, we're past the origin phase of Daredevil because he's been around long enough, so we don't need to like retell his origin or reframe it. But I mean, I kind of like what they're doing, sort of to a point where it's like, yeah, he had a tragedy. Okay, he's trying to stay away from it, and he's getting slowly pulled back into it. And by slowly, I mean slowly getting pulled back.
Well, yeah, but you say that, but it even in the title, right? It's Born Again. It is a new origin, if you want to think of it. This is
Yeah,
his
true.
Disney origin, so it's Born Again. This is a true origin story, and they're treating it like that. It's pacing wise.
Yeah, and he's trying to stay out of it, and then he gets pulled back in. So yeah, he's kind of being born again and a vigilante, just in time for the
Hmm.
Anti-Vigilante Task Force, which we'll get into. So,
And potential follow ups, which we'll also
mhm,
dive into. So because as we already discussed, right? There's another half. This is like a halfway point of the full
mhm.
run. So
But yeah, I mean, I've liked it, like you said, I've liked it so far. Apart from my little gripes from last podcast, plug again, go see last podcast. Although I guess him not being in the suit and just being out there running around as the quote unquote blind guy, he's got extra senses there. I want to say it's getting a little old with his scenes of him using his blindness against people. Like we'll get to with the bank stuff later, but yeah, so I'm not really tired of it, but it seems like they're kind of doing that a little too often versus him being in the costume and just doing stuff. But I don't know, maybe now that he's getting back into the costume, that will kind of slow down as maybe they're going to be more costumey things now versus not like the last 5 episodes. I don't know.
Well, it's definitely got to pick up. I mean, we're hitting the stretch here. So
Yep, because stuff's got to hit the fan here in the next 3 episodes after this before the, I guess, mid-season cliffhanger or whatever. So,
right.
and I did kind of joke about it in our intro, but what is it with secret layers? Everybody seems to got one. Like Frank's got one in some abandoned building or wherever he was. Fisk has at least one somewhere that we saw of probably many of these got over the years. Of course, the main villain Muse has to have one in this case, abandoned subway tunnels. And I guess if you want to get technical about it, on the rooftop of Matt's apartment, he's got a locked off area with his billy clubs and apparently every variation of his Daredevil suit we've ever seen in TV and the comics, which is pretty cool. So I guess there's just lots of abandoned places in New York City, which I mean, I guess that's one way to keep them occupied and useful.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like real estate's a premium at New York or anything, right? So, but superhero story at heart. So I guess it's got to be Secret Lairs all the way down. I keep thinking back to what was it, Arrow, where he had the nightclub secret
Hmm.
lair, that's what I kind of picture here. It's like everybody just has to, it's like once you get a costume, you get issued a secret member card, and you get a decoder ring and a secret lair. It's like the part of the package. So
Yeah, it's just part of the superhero 101.
yeah,
Costume, cool name, secret lair. And I did like how they're showing it was like at least 5 Daredevil suits. We had the yellow one that we saw in She-Hulk. We had like the original one from that he was wearing in the old season, and then we had like the black one with the yellow with the red eye slits, which is from the Shadowlands series, right? So kind of cool.
yeah, yeah. And yet, every time he suits up now, he somehow knows to go back to the red. So
Yeah, it's like, yeah, how's the blind guy see color? Right? He must have it. Someone must have told him which one it was, or maybe it feels different, so he can put it in the right order, and then no one's gonna like move around on him, change it. So he wears like the yellow helmet with the black suit and the
right, yeah. Why do you have red eyes this time? What's up with that?
yeah. How do you see all those eye pieces there? Let's see what else happened in this one. The first episode here. We have Fisk and Vanessa continuing to do their counseling. Uh, Seems like they're making progress. They're a little more chatty this time, but in being more open, quote unquote, with Heather, they're not really, because you can tell that there's obviously the subtext in what they're saying to each other because they know what they're talking about, but they're couching it in words that makes maybe Heather not think it's like criminal stuff, right? Cause,
Yeah, because she's that dense.
yeah, because I mean, obviously she knows Fisk probably is, has criminal ties because of, he got convicted and all that kind of stuff. So she probably knows he's done some stuff. She probably knows something's going on there, but you know, they're not coming out and saying it. Even talking about Adam, right? The way he was phrasing it, like, you know, she doesn't know where he is, and he said something like I don't remember him being committal about that. Yeah, he didn't know where he was either. He's kind of said something kind of vague.
Yeah.
So I thought at the time that probably meant Fisk dealt with him, and by that I mean he's in a barrel dumped in the Hudson River somewhere, right? So, and that Vanessa knew that's probably what happened. Like, she'll never see him again because he's like, under a giant stadium, end zone, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's hanging out with what was Fisk's first assistant's name? I'm blanking on his name there.
The one that
Oh, not Stanley. Anyway, yeah, the
the one
one
that
that
Karen shot. Yeah.
Karen shot. Yeah, they're hanging out together.
Yeah. They're in a farm upstate.
Wesley,
Wesley, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dread Private Roberts, got it. Yeah,
Yeah, right. So, they say they have no idea what happened to him. And then, at the end, we see that Fisk is actually keeping Adam locked up in a cell in one of his secret layers, where he goes to eat dinner in front of him, I guess to mock him or just be like, haha, I'm out here having dinner, you're not. To which then my mind goes to, does he do this every night? Most nights? And now that you're mayor, how do you pull that off? Right? Uh, Although it would be hilarious if somehow he had to move from wherever he was before to the basement of the mayor's mansion. That would be hilarious.
yeah. I mean, maybe I still think there's something. Going back to Vanessa for a second, I do think there's something more going on with her. I know I've got her built as this like going to end up being like a criminal overlord, which I know she was while he was gone, but she's still playing that part just behind Fisk's back or something. I don't know. There's a shoe to drop there. And then speaking of the eating, I saw pointed out somewhere I read that Fisk, when they show him eating with Vanessa and different places, he's not really eating that much at his meals. Um,
Hmm.
and now I think we're actually seeing why he's actually eating his real meals with Adam, right? Because he had a huge plate of pasta or something when he went down there. So, and Vanessa commented at one point that he was going to have his seats let out, right? Because he was obviously gaining back weight. So he's definitely eating more than what you're seeing in the other meals. So kind of just an interesting why question there.
Yeah. I guess it makes him feel happy. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Eat where you enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And we didn't recap it in the fourth episode, but there's some scenes with Matt and a guy named Leroy, like a career low-level criminal. I guess he was stealing what, like basically like bags of chips from a bodega, and he got got busted for that.
It's like Cracker Jacks or
Yeah,
something
crackers
like
or
that.
fiddle faddle. Yeah,
Fiddle faddle. Yeah,
they even had to plug that, so okay, they got some free money from whoever that makes that. But
a name brand I haven't heard in a long
yeah,
time.
I know. I'm like, wow, they still make that. But those scenes, I guess, I mean, it was kind of cute to see like Matt being like the legal guy and doing all the legal wrangling and negotiations with the I guess what assistant DA or whoever she was. But it wasn't what Leroy wanted. Like he's going against what his client wanted, which of course is to have no time at all. Which Matt's like, well, I got you like 30 day or 50, 2 weeks or whatever. But he's like, I want no time at all. What are you doing to me? You're not a lawyer. You're not a good lawyer. What are you?
Yeah.
So
He had some good chemistry with that DA though. That was actually, yeah. I'd like to have seen more of her. It was kind of an interesting back and forth. So
yeah, if not a little freaky that he can tell what she had for lunch by smell. I'm like, dude, that's just freaky. Stop.
yeah,
No.
don't think about that too much.
Yeah, I'm like, huh, what else can he smell? Never mind.
Yeah,
So,
moving on.
but yeah, I guess you can kind of see that this is starting to pull him away from his thoughts that you can solve everything through the justice system, right? Or, because, being clever with your deals and your words aren't necessarily either the right thing or what your client wants, right? So I guess, one more step back into the vigilante world.
Yeah. Which, spoiler alert, Frank's going to call him on that pretty soon.
Yep. And then we kind of see Fisk, doing his new world as mayor, doing mayor things, which is kind of funny. Seeing him out of his element, but trying to do his best to power through it. And this case had like two different sets of kids in two different schools sing badly, I might add, the same wildly inappropriate song, which was hilarious. Between them badly singing and him just sitting there like with this stupid smile, like this is great, get me out of here, I can't stand this.
Which, well, I agree. That was some. I laughed. That was some fun. A good minute of levity, which we need as we get into some of the next couple pretty intense scenes. But I still don't understand Fisk's play here. Like, there's got to be something more than, you know, we're not watching him try to go straight legitimately. I can't imagine that that's his play. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I keep going back to what was the Rocky actors with like my name's recall is terrible tonight. Stallone's mobster going straight movie Oscar, where he's trying to go straight. And everybody's like trying to figure out what he's up to.
hmm
That's what I feel like here. It's like I feel like there's got to be another play at some point of he's not really going straight. There's something else here. So
yeah. I mean, I guess he's just doing the mayor things to improve his popularity rating with the voters or whatever. Just look, I hang out with kids. I do like I go to schools and tell kids to stay in school and whatever.
yeah, but is the mayor thing his end goal? Is what I'm saying. Like yeah,
Yeah,
is he
or is it?
legitimately trying to be the mayor, or is it some means to an end?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be an angle. Like he's using it for something, either to get back with the anti-vigilante stuff or his big port rebuild. I guess where he'll be like probably making millions or billions off of that. Who knows? But yeah, there's more than just being a mayor, right? For sure. Let's see. Then we get our big meeting that we're kind of waiting for after the end of last episode, where the White Tiger got brutally shot by a Punisher-looking dude. Matt tracks down Frank Castle, the aforementioned Punisher. It was kind of cool how he went to the location of Hector's murder and then managed to track down the bullet. Like it rolled down the little not hill, but like a sloped street where he managed to guard down to it and like, hey, there it is right there. So,
A little CSI Daredevil. So
yeah. And of course, the bullet's got the Punisher symbol on it, the casing. Not quite sure how he managed to track down Frank, but hey, whatever. Let's just go with it. It's he's got abilities and powers and whatever.
he could smell Frank from the
That's
looks
right.
of
Yeah. Never mind. Uh, and yeah, it kind of seemed like like all the equipment, like when he finally came to wherever Frank was, like all his equipment was there. Like there were lots of guns, ammunition, like police scanners, body armor, all kinds of stuff. But it kind of seemed to me that Frank was laying low and not really doing Punisher type things yet. And of course, we have the awesome debate between the two of them. Frank, obviously, the revenge side of things, where you get back against everybody that ever wronged you, their friends, their family, everybody.
it.
And Matt's still,
Generations to come.
yeah, Matt's still on the justice kick because the legal system and you got to do things the right way. Even though I used to also go out at night and beat people up, but I didn't kill them. I just beat them up really bad. Frank's like, nah, take care of them and be done with it. Like Dex, he should have thrown Dex off the building and he killed him, but nope, he wimped out again.
Yeah, so kind of goes back to our joke there. I do expect that after DD season 2, Matt's pretty much always keeping tabs on Frank, which kind of gives you an interesting perspective on maybe the last couple of years of last season, couple seasons of Punisher. Was Matt there and didn't intervene anyway? But yeah, that was. I guess I had built up this expectation of how we were going to see Frank when we got to him, and it was not the image we got. Right, you're right. He seemed to be like kind of in between, off his game, just kind of unkept, almost missionless. And it was kind of interesting to see. I wonder if this spurs him back into something more, because we don't really know with the time jump and blip and all the stuff that maybe the MCU's introduced. What's happened to Frank in the meantime. So
Yeah, good point. Like, was he blip? Not, I don't know. Like, maybe we'll find out because obviously this isn't the last we're going to see of Frank because there's an anti-vigilante task force out there for a reason, and just going after one guy, Daredevil, who shows up every once in a while, that's not. So, there's going to be more vigilantes to go after. So, Frank's got to come back as an active participant here, which I knew wouldn't be here because it's just kind of the intro, like, oh yeah, here's Frank. They're having a little argument like they used to have. He gets him to admit, actually say Foggy's name, which probably hasn't said in a while, and gets really broken up about it. So, I figured then, Frank will get pulled back in here eventually, but not right then. So,
yeah, no, I agreed with that, but I was still expecting him to be more ready, and he wasn't. So that's like both of them have some work to do.
yeah, with the full beard and stuff, and like he hasn't done anything in like months at least, or longer, right?
So maybe Daredevil's not the only one getting reborn here.
Yeah, right. Next season, Punisher: Born Again. And then we go into our next episode, which is kind of all Matt centric. It's our failed bank heist episode, which happens a lot in TV shows and movies where our heroes are being held hostage somewhere and wind up defeating the bad guys from inside while the police are just standing by outside acting stupid and not doing anything. But it works. I love those kind of episodes. They're always fun. They just did it a few weeks ago on SWAT, if you watch that or whatever. And then there's been a few episodes like that in the old Highlander TV series that I remember. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
always cool to see that kind of stuff. What do you think
there
about that?
can be only one until there's a bunch of
Yeah,
us.
until there's 112. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go with. I get what you're saying. It can be overused, but I'm gonna admit I just sat back and enjoyed this one. This was probably one of my favorite episodes of the season so far. I just kind of got back. It was a popcorn episode, right? It was you sit back. It was fun seeing the way he worked it out, the interactions. The guy who played Khan was great. I thought. I obviously haven't seen the Ms. Marvel series, but yeah, he was. It was the interactions were fun, and that was what I was looking for in this one. It's just kind of a fun, not too serious a threat to Matt. Right? We never really felt like Matt was in danger, despite the thugs. But yeah, it was a good little warm up for what he's got coming. So
Yeah, I mean, it does move the plot along, glacially, slowly, but it does move the plot, at least with the gang people, yeah. And with Matt kind of getting back into, fighting form, I guess, so to speak.
yeah,
But yeah,
brush some of the rust off.
yeah, right.
So
But yeah, Khan, is actually, yeah, Ms. Marvel's dad, which he hasn't talk about it. He just shows like he shows him, Matt, the little Funko figure, which of course he can't see that, but it's kind of funny. Because it's Jersey City's hero, Ms. Marvel. Which I mean, it's a cool series. You should watch it. It's fun. It's not too serious, but it's not like too kiddie. It's young adult, I guess. So maybe kind of like Skeleton Crew, kind of young adult kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, in that series, I want to say her dad here is kind of clueless or inept. Maybe he's just more like self-absorbed, like in his own world. Things have to be a certain way. Things have to, you have to act a certain way. You have to be a certain way. So he's kind of oblivious to things that aren't in his little vision of the world. Although, how you can be oblivious to all that kind of stuff when you've got a blind guy who you know is a blind guy beating up a heavily armed person right in front of you, safe cracking a vault by just listening to the tumblers, right? And then running around the basement near you without banging into things right in front of your eyes. I don't know why you don't have a clue, but it's still kind of funny and whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he was. I guess I didn't take it as that he was clueless, although I can see what you're saying, especially if that's how he was portrayed in the previous show. I took it as he was kind of grateful and looking, ha ha ha, past the obvious on purpose, right? Like, obviously there's more to Matt than what he's seeing, but he was just grateful for the save and, willing to go with it just as long as he got out alive. So,
Yeah, or he's so shook up by guys with guns, and he might get killed, not see his daughter, which is his entire world, and whatever, that he kind of overlooks the fact that, oh yeah, that blind guy. Right. Or
but he does invite him for dinner, so
yeah, so then maybe he'll mention at dinner time, oh, you should have seen him. He took out the bad guy. He cracked a safe. But, I don't know. It's like, okay, Dad, shut up. Ixnay on the, you know. But hey, maybe we'll get into the. I don't think we'll bring Ms. Marvel into this series, but you never know. You got the Anti-Vigilante
yet,
Task Force. They got to go after somebody besides
right?
Frank and Matt, right? There could be more than two vigilantes to have 27 cops, going after him. So I don't know. We'll see. Anything's possible. And yeah, I mean, I liked it, like you're saying. It's mostly an all-action episode, not much plot. Well, they move it along a little bit with the guy trying to rob the bank to get the 1.8 million that they have to pay the other gang that they roughed up because the kingpins, guy said, pay him 1.8 million dollars or face the wrath of the boss, So, and of course, as we said before, this ever slowly moves Matt back to being Daredevil. He had to fight a bunch of guys. He ran out at the end and really messed that dude up. you know, like I probably like broke his leg or broke his knees or something, right? So, he's getting back into that rough and tumble Daredevil kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just another taste, right? He's basically in relapse. So, uh, a couple more tastes and he's back addicted. So,
Yep, it's got reeling back in, which finally, in episode 6,
speaking of,
we finally get Matt back in the suit. And this time, all it took was a teenage girl to be caught by a serial killer, which, of course, is also the niece of the guy you defended 2 episodes ago that got, shot in the head
right?
walking down the street in a costume, of course. But anyway, so slowly over 4 or 5 episodes, we've finally broken him down, and he's put the costume back on. And of course, still being a tad rusty, or just being Daredevil in general, we had the really brutal fight scene between him and Muse in Muse's lair, which you've come to expect from the Daredevil shows, because it's just basically two guys who are not like super strong, super endurance. They're just two mostly fit people beating the crap out of each other, and you can see him getting winded and getting like slow, and it's great. It's like real life. If it really, it's superhero-y, but it's like real life, which is not really a thing, but
Yeah, I guess this was, if I had to nitpick a little bit, I know they're trying to ease him back in, right? They're playing with his power levels a little bit if you want to put him on the superhero scale. But, I don't know. I guess I didn't feel like Muse had been shown to be that. We don't know a lot about him, so maybe he's got more to him. But I didn't feel like he should have been that much of a struggle
hmm
for Matt. I mean, we've seen Matt take on the Hand and go toe to toe with super ninjas and Frank and all these super skilled people and all that. Rusty or not, I just felt like this was a little drawn out. Like it shouldn't have been that difficult. He should have just, like I said, I wish they'd given us a reason for Muse to be more powerful or give him more of a struggle than we did. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to play it up a bit, make it seem like it's a tougher thing than it was, or, for now, maybe, because obviously, spoiler alert, Muse escapes, so of course there'll be a rematch at some point, so we'll see how that
right,
goes.
yeah, and maybe he's got something to him. Like I said, I mean, there could be a
Hmm.
reason. It feels under not high enough stakes for Matt, given what we've seen him do in previous shows. So
Hmm. Yeah, they were kind of a little nice parallel between Angela and Foggy. Angela's bleeding out because, Muse, drains people's blood to mix it into his paints to paint his murals. And kind of like Foggy, she dies right in front of him. But this time, he's not occupied trying to beat somebody up because he already did, and he can actually finally save somebody that he cares about. Although I'm not a doctor, but if your heart stopped due to blood loss, would CPR really work? I don't know, but you're missing like half your blood, which is in a jar over there, but you can't like turn that machine back on and pump it back into you. I don't think that would work. Although it's comic key kind of thing, whatever. But you know, which of course, as we said before, gives him Muse time to wake up and escape when he's trying to save Angela. So, but still, it's kind of fun.
yeah, don't think too hard about that one.
Exactly.
There's you know this is where like she gets a blood transfusion from the Hulk or something and gets anyway. Yeah, that's how you get powers. So
Yeah, I mean, if only she had that mystic amulet.
right.
She- Who knows? Or maybe she did. I don't know because he gave it to her right back in the
Yeah, it was in the suit
yeah.
bag. So
So yeah, maybe there's something to that then. The amulet kept her alive
made
apparently.
it made it easier for her to come back. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, well, she's born again, maybe, right? She woke up from death. Hey,
There you go. Hey,
hey,
the
theme,
title.
theme. And then we cut to our boy Fisk here doing more things he's not used to dealing with. In this case, hobnobbing with rich and powerful elites to try to get something from them, as opposed to them sucking up to him that he's probably used to. Apparently, most of them, since they're probably shrewd business people, see right through his port scheme. So it can be interesting to see where that goes. Is he gonna try to beat them at their own game, or will he kind of go back to his usual way of getting people to do what he wants, with bribes or threats or kidnapping their family members, whatever. So, of course, being the mayor, that probably won't work out too well. But it was cool that we had kind of Vanessa there helping him, right? She's being seen with her husband, which was the big, critique from his PR or chief of staff person, right? That they have to be together and be out there to show that there's unity and all that good stuff. And she's helping him work the room as best as possible, right? So it's kind of cool that they're kind of working together again. They're getting back their groove, so to speak, to some degree, right?
Yeah, which I had forgotten that part of it. So that's kind of a good reminder. I'll admit I enjoyed this. I liked seeing Fisk kind of after all the stuff seemed to be swinging his way. It was interesting to see him get kind of put in his place by all the rich uppity people. Right, like obviously he's not of their world, and they're going to make sure he knows it.
Hmm.
Um, so that was kind of funny. You got a little bit of comedy there. Again, kind of giving some levity in the middle of this, and then you know, again going back to the Easter eggs and you called this out in the recap, but getting to see the swordsman Jack Duquesne there, that appearance caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it, and while it's probably just a cameo, it perked me up a bit, right? Because it's like, ooh, crossover, and yeah, who knows what'll come of that.
Yeah, 'cause I had totally forgot about him after the Hawkeye stuff. But then they made a point of showing, I think, like again, like maybe like I don't know if it's like a BB's news clip or something of like the swordsman, doing something to somebody somewhere, right? So, but hey, there's another vigilante, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's like D level vigilante, but at least you got another one out there that he might get picked up by Fisk's team here later. Who knows, right? But
Yeah, good. Maybe Chekhov's swordsman. So
yeah, but yeah, you kind of wonder what people like. They're not really snubbing Fisk because I guess it's rich and powerful. They need politicians too, right, and stuff, and vice versa. But it's kind of like they knew what he used to be because everybody does. So it's like, yeah, how far do you want to push that? Yeah, he's still the mayor, so he's not gonna he's just gonna like suddenly right there in the middle of the room start beating up on you. But you are kind of living on the edge or playing with something if you think he's fully reformed. Sure. So you got to be careful there, folks. Yeah.
well, and it's also an interesting contradiction, right? Because he's used to being the shadow behind all the mob and crime bosses, right? And when it comes to the political world, these are the shadowy people that are really holding the power and the strings behind the politicians, right? So, yeah, he's the elected politician, but these are the people who control his strings because they control the purse.
Hmm.
And so he's not the one pulling the strings. He's the one that has people pulling his strings, is what they're trying to tell him. And it's an interesting role reversal that he has to deal with.
Yeah, so like I said, I can't wait to see how he deals with it. Does he try to one up them at their own game, or does he revert back to his old ways? And yeah, yeah,
Yeah, well, I guess
we'll find out.
that's where we see what his actual plan is, right? So
Hmm. Yeah, so once we finally get to that here, maybe the next 3 episodes after this. But yeah,
there's actually a dragon buried under the docks of the
yeah,
pier, and he's after their bones.
there's a very deep hole.
Yeah,
He's excavating. He's making. He's drilling the Varus core. Yeah, he's gonna
yeah.
he's gonna geothermally heat all of New York City. That's his plan. There we go. And yeah, speaking of plans or schemes or whatever, later we see Fisk again in his lair, wherever it is, talking to Adam about his father and all this stuff, how he made him what he is, and then he had an axe in his hand. I'm like, oh, okay, he's just done with Adam. He's just gonna chop him up now because he's mad because he didn't get his way at the reception, and now he's just gonna take it out on Adam, and then get back into Kingpin form, right? Not quite. He unlocks the door, throws the axe in there, and just kind of says, if you want out, take it. And it goes about as well as you think. I don't even think
Yeah.
Adam even got well with the axe, no, but not even like a punch or anything. He never even got close to him, and
No. So
which of
this
course he's been in the cell like malnourished and whatever for who knows how long, months, I don't know. So I mean, you gotta get your anger out from those elites, So yeah, beat up somebody you can beat up, I guess.
yeah, and we're talking about Fisk, so no. But this was the scene I wasn't expecting, right? I mean, I know I keep saying there's a lot of scenes in this show that are catching me. And I guess that's a good thing, right? I'm not reading this. I, I'm spoiler free. I'm not getting everything's a surprise, and I'm loving that. But the back and forth between the Fisk and Matt fights, right? Because they kind of cut back and forth between Fisk just destroying Adam and Matt fighting with Muse, and it was a really neat opposite side of the coin motif, flipping back and forth that they were doing because a lot of their moves would like mirror, and it was really interesting. Obviously, Fisk going for the power slams and stuff, but just the way they cut it was really neat. I thought.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's cool that they're doing different things with the fight scenes. Like I really wanted them to bring back the one camera, one take thing, but here again, doing something kind of cool, like you said, kind of going back and forth of the two different fights and two different styles, and one guy was obviously still got it, although he's fighting a guy that's weak for not eating for weeks, but whatever. Yeah, but, yeah. Well, I had much better time at it than Matt did, So which of course will change, but it was fun.
Well, part of what makes Daredevil Daredevil is he gets beat up. I mean, it's just
Yeah, I mean that's
part
pretty
of it. So
every episode. He's like going to see the night nurse, Claire, and she's like, "Why you? Oh, you're back again."
yeah, don't block the punches with your face.
Yeah, and then like not coming to work because you got all cut ups, and Karen doesn't know what's going on. And, yeah, Foggy can't cover for you anymore because he's not here anymore. And then yeah, we talked about it on and off here, but yeah, we see Fisk setting up more stuff that's coming later in this season, yeah, probably next season. In this case, the Anti-Vigilante Task Force, which because it's Fisk picking the team members, it's made up of cops that are, let's say, not on the nice list.
no, they got checked twice.
Yeah, they're getting coal. Yeah.
Yep.
So he's kind of making his own gang, so to speak, of people that are loyal to him, right? People that will do what he wants. And he basically said to them, like, by any means necessary, here's your task, right? So he's basically giving them carte blanche to go out there and just be the wonderful people that they are, to find all these vigilantes that are running around out there, which of course includes our crooked cop Powell, which we've seen last couple of episodes, and who knows how many other people that might be part, assuming that they're also part of this Daredevil, Punisher type, whatever you call it, gang, cult, society, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but so that should be interesting when they do actually go against Daredevil and the Punisher, because that's going to have to happen, right? And maybe the Swordsman, which we saw, like I said, in some news clips, and his little secret identity there, and again, he's a vigilante, so hey, he's fair game, right? Yeah, which I'm sure they'll include him because they already had him on the show, right? So gotta keep going.
Right. The actor's queued up.
Yeah, and will they bring anybody else in? Anybody from the old Netflix shows, cameos? Are they gonna bring in like the current MCU TV people like Ms. Marvel or older new Hawkeye? Yeah, maybe. Probably not Avenger Hawkeye because that's big money. Not Spider-Man for sure. They're not gonna bring him in at all because that's too much money.
No, but makes me wonder, and maybe I'm just getting my hopes up here, but are we looking at like a new version of the Defenders, right? Maybe there's been a lot of rumors. I think we've even talked about it previously about the Young Avengers, right? With the new Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, some of the kids they've been putting together,
Yeah. Maybe
and
Angela, right, if she becomes White Tiger, right?
right, yeah, we've got Angela, and we've got our chaperones that maybe we could pull from. We've got Matt, we've got Frank. He's a responsible adult. We can pull him in and have him be a role model for these kids. And I was trying to think of who would go with that, and I really want to see him bring back. This would be a perfect spot for Moon Knight. So let's have the stable trio of Matt, Moon Knight, and Frank to chaperone these young Avengers as we kind of form a new generation.
I don't know about stable. It's about Moon Knight, or Frank for that matter. Here, kids, here's a role model for you to look at.
That's what I'm going for, man. Let's just go all out.
Like, you know, young Dirty Harry Avengers or something. I don't know what you're gonna come up with then.
Oh, I think that'd be an awesome Defenders.
Yeah, and you can like bring in Squirrel Girl. You can go off the
Yeah,
rails.
you could. I mean, just bring it out. Bring it out. Oh, this would be awesome. I'm there. I'm in.
Yeah,
Something tells me they're not going to do that for me.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, they do have to fill in the next crop of TV or movie type heroes. So you get the young kids that will become not young kids by the time you do like 5 movies with them. So you,
Oh,
you can
who
you
knows?
can bring in Blade because they're working that movie. When then they aren't, then they are. Yeah, we just got all the good role models for young kids to get in there.
Yep. Yep. Got it figured out. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but yeah, probably this next 3 episodes, yeah, these task force is gonna find somebody, which probably be the swordsman, right? Because he's like the most low-hanging fruit. Frank, you're never gonna catch Frank. I mean, and then obviously Daredevil, no, because that's the show, right? So there's gonna be something that's gonna happen that's gonna drag them in, or they're gonna get found out, and then they're gonna have to unite to go against the task force. And of course, who's behind the task force? Ta-da. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where they're going, but I'm definitely here for it. So.
yep, it's been a great 6 episodes, and I look forward to the next 3.
Yep.
Which, speaking of which, let's just anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've seen all there is to see here.
Yep. So next time we'll wrap up the final 3 episodes of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, which would be episodes 7 through 9. Or if they would have done it the original way, just the halfway point of season 1, but which I really wish they should have done the full 18 episodes, like the old time series. That'd been fantastic, but whatever.
Oh yeah.
It'd been a lot because they're the way they film them all, they had to have them all done basically before they did it. So at least now they can actually have time to work on the next 9.
Well, it's probably just as well they didn't because given the way Disney Plus is doing stuff right now, they'd have just dropped them all in 1 week. So.
Yeah, because also as we're recording this, like next week, Star Wars Andor season 2 starts coming out, which apparently, as we saw from a little infographic, they're doing like 3 episodes a week for 4 weeks. So it's gonna be insane.
Yeah.
what's coming here? So
Yeah. Basically, just take your vacation from work and let's just binge Andor is where we're at right now. So.
pretty much, yeah. So for sure, Daredevil Born Again, and then we'll have to see what we do after that. If how we're gonna parse up Andor when we ever get back to Farscape. At this point,
We'll get
probably
there eventually.
probably by like June. I don't know. We'll have to figure it out, but because we still have half of that season to go, so which is a real half season of 20 episodes. So yeah, we still have a lot of Farscape to go. So that's your homework. If you haven't already watched the 3 episodes of Daredevil, we will, and we'll talk all about it. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.